Wow, thank you for that beautiful song. Following our proper protocol and honoring the land here, the traditional landowners of the land, I'd like to call up to give us a proper welcome is the great-great-grandson of Chief Seattle. It's from the nation that resides right here. It's Ken Workman, so if we could give him a warm welcome, that'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And while I appreciate the honors of great, I'm really not that old. So there's really 4 greats in there. So we would say in Lashutsi, we would go Akwayek, Siabsi, Atcha. And that means my name, or I am great-grandson of Chief Seattle. So, Ya Yustobs Tidsda, my name is Workman. Ata Duf Duabs de Ishachad, I am of the Duamish tribe. Yufwakwayek, Siabsi, Atcha, and great-grandson of Chief Seattle. And we say this like this so that you know who we are, so that when we're standing on this land that you're standing on today, that when I speak these words, that you know they come from the Duwamish and that they come from my great-grandfather. Well, now I do that. So, formally, Gwigwi Hida de Siyaya. This means welcome, my friends. They are swatufted onto this land. That a long time ago everybody knew as the Wamish. Welcome, my friends, onto this land that today we know as Seattle. After my Sapa, my grandfather's name, Seattle. Gwigwi Hadak, the Iiab, the Ishad, the Siyayaya. And this means welcome, honored ones, family and friends. Welcome. And thank you.
Be up front and tell you straight out that Tsleil-Waututh Nation and the nations that we're working with that are going to be represented here and speak in Lummi Nation, Tulalip Nation, and a lot in Canada. First and foremost, how we do things is having and using how we're taught is to have our culture and our spirituality be the backbone behind all that we do, and that's how I've been taught. Whether it's been working in the healing field and running programs or being director of different programs, I incorporated our culture and spirituality in everything I did. Whether it was education or social services or employment training, from babies to adults to people in prison to everything. We took the same values and we did the same thing with our economic development. We took the same values and we do it now with environment. And it's so important because what we're up against is brutal. The Alberta tar sands in Canada, the earth they want to move is the same size as the country of Texas. And it takes 2 tons of earth to get 1 barrel. And you know how big a barrel of oil is. It takes 2 tons of earth to get 1 barrel. It takes 3.5 barrels of water to get 1 barrel. That's what it takes. And they're getting 1 million barrels a day. They want to triple that to over 3 million barrels a day. And those owners of those pipelines are making $71 million a day. That's what they're making. And I was just up there yesterday. I drove all day yesterday, all night to be here. I left in the morning yesterday and I got here around 11 o'clock last night. And it was a beautiful ceremony because I was traveling with Joel James of the Lummi Nation, and he donated this huge, beautiful totem pole the size of these poles here and carved it and painted it. Just hundreds of hours of work that he put into it. Then he raised money to deliver it there. And how he did that is he wanted to start from South Dakota with our relations that are standing up against the Keystone Pipeline that's coming out of Alberta. And they did a ceremony there and they blessed it. And everybody in that ceremony got to put their hands on that totem pole. And the Cowboy and Indian Alliance were a big part of that as well. They were the ranchers and the the cowboys and the Indians that were there standing up. So when we were there, we gave them a name, didn't we? This is John Raymer, by the way, he's my co-MC. Let's give him a hand.
And that's Sundance Chief Reuben George.
Yeah. So we went there and we gave them a name. We said they're the new CIA, the new Cowboy and Indian Alliance. That's the real one that's going to do something for this country, isn't it? So they put blessings on the totem pole, and they stopped at many villages and cities along the way. And then I joined when we got to Canada, and started in Victoria, came to Vancouver, went to Revelstoke, Jasper, Calgary, and Edmonton, and that's where I had to leave because I had to come back. But today they put up the totem pole. And it was so amazing because every stop, the people put in prayers, and when you're driving behind that totem pole, it already has a spirit. It already has a spirit, and that's a jewel put into it. But then it started to grow. The more people put into it across the country. He gifted us to Tsleil-Waututh Nation a totem pole a year ago, and 7.5 million people viewed that totem pole across the country. And the same thing happened here. But when I'm driving behind that totem pole, I could feel that spirit, and it made me really emotional, just happy because, you know, we work so diligent and so hard to get this message out, because when we started this campaign against Kinder Morgan, nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew what it was. Now we're to the point in British Columbia, right where the terminal is, the first suburb out of Vancouver, British Columbia, you know, to Tsleil-Waututh Nation, we're suing Canada for not consulting us with the First Nations. And yeah. And I believe this, not only for Canadians, but Americans too, because when people find out the true facts of this destruction that this causes, people will want to make a better choice for the future generations. We put that message out there to the community in Vancouver, and 71% of the residents support to Tsleil-Waututh Nation in suing. And that's when we come out with the true facts. And this is at a time when Canada gave these fossil fuel companies, more particularly Keystone, Enbridge, and Kinder Morgan, $120 million just in advertisement money alone, not counting the $3 billion in subsidies, not counting the carbon tax, the plane tax, the car tax, all the taxes that they could put on fossil fuel development. Canada comes to $30 billion a year, where kids are hungry, teachers are on strike. It's just completely backwards. So when we went to the Alberta tar sands, and I'm going to have a hard time saying this, I got to sit with some of the people at our very last stop. One of the mothers came, and she talked to my mom. My mom said, "Come over quick." And she said, "Listen to this story." And she goes, "I saw you guys on the news last night, and I knew I had to be here." I said, "Myself and my kids are getting treated in the hospital with cancer." I said, "I had to be here. They're watching my kids," and I came down, and my mom said, "Show them." And I asked if I could share the story with her, and she said yes, and we filmed her. And she pulled up her sleeve of her arm, and there's welts all the way up her arm. And show them more. She pulled up her pants. Right from her knee to her ankle was like a scab of just sickness from the water. And she said, "We can't drink the water. We bottle the water to bathe our children. We're having problems breathing the air." She goes, 7 of my family are in the hospital now getting treated for cancer. And it makes me think of that $30 billion subsidies that they're given. Makes me think of Richard Kinder in his house in Texas that's making $71 million a day. Makes me think of those things of the water and the land and everything that's getting broken, everything that's getting ruined, and the people are dying. When we did a referendum in our community in a hall like this, we did a vote. We as a nation, we could have said, yeah, okay, let's negotiate with Kinder Morgan. Let's take $10, $20 million for my nation. Help some of my people out of poverty. That'd be a good thing. You would think. There's 101% consensus that, you know, we're not a rich community, but we stood up against them. We're suing them. And our court case looks good. I think about it and I'm happy. And when that lady stood across from me and she cried and she said, "Help me." She said, "Help me." Stop them, please, stop them. And I said, we are and we will. With conviction, we could stand here and we could say that. We could say that. We've been stewards of our land and protecting our land for thousands of years, and we will continue to do that. We had a big court decision that I get into a little bit later, but you know, it comes down to this. It comes down to this, and I was tired when I went up there, and I was questioning whether I could continue this fight. And you know, I'm more passionate and I'm more motivated than ever, and they're not going to stop me or stop any of us when we come together and when we do something about this. So when I left, it was really heart-wrenching because that journey was so long and it was so tiring and so beautiful. We'd pull in sometimes 12 o'clock at night. We'd sleep maybe till 5, then we'd start getting ready, then we'd start speaking, then we'd do all these different tours throughout the day. And they did it, they're on their 3rd week now. And it's finishing today. And you know what? What it comes down to, though, it's a celebration. I'm here with you guys, and I wanted to be here. I wanted to be here. And all across the country where they touch people, people are thinking the same thing. We are waking up. We are waking up to that bullshit propaganda that the news is putting out, because we know that the fossil fuel companies, they come in, they buy the media, and they buy the politicians. We had a tailing pond just burst, millions and millions of tons of sludge went into our waters and our reservoirs. Not only that they're not going to clean it, they're going to put hospital waste in that tailing pond now. That's what they're going to do. And we're not letting them get away with that as well. We're going to stand up and do something about that. But those are the kind of things that are happening. Right here in the United States alone, 3 million kilometers of oil and gas pipelines, which is about 2.2 million miles of pipelines. Here, where there's 20 spills a day. 20 spills a day. And when I stand here and I look out here and I see how beautiful it is, I see how precious it is. You know, to Tsleil-Waututh people, we're called the people of the inlet, people of the water. Our lineage of where we come from is that water, for real. That's our story of creation. And I love my kids, they're here. I love them. And there's nothing I wouldn't do for them. And I know you love somebody that good as well. But what ceremony has taught me in the connection to the land and water, what it has taught me is that I love the land and I love the water and I love where I come from, which is that lineage of that water. It says, people of the water, people of the inlet. Ceremonies that we have, and if you have any religious belief, I know you believe the same thing, because some use candles, some use incense, we use sage or sweetgrass. It's the same message. It's those fundamentals of humanity that we'll go by and would want to make a difference and want to make a change, want to make something better and protect what we love. So it's easy for me to make a decision that I'm going to protect it. Like I love and protect my kids and do anything for them. And essentially we're doing it for them. And my kids tell me, they say, I had a beautiful conversation on the drive here. They're going to do something in their high schools to start educating people. Right here, we don't feel it, but Uncle Phil and I, we travel a lot around the world. And it's evident that what's going on is affecting them in their communities, because when we go to the grocery store, they only have half the food on their shelves. Panama, I think it was 8 a.m., right? They shut the city down, or 8 p.m. They shut the city down so people could discourage them from using water. Water shortages in Panama. And that's why they're standing up and they're doing something right away, is because they feel the effects. But here we're lucky because we don't see that yet. But as you know, 2 months ago, NASA came out with their study and they said it's going to be 5 to 10 years we're going to be fighting over water, fighting over food. And who's going to suffer? I tell you, it's not those guys that are making $71 million a day. It's us, the people, our land and our water. But anyway, we have a lot of great speakers, and I just wanted to share why we're here. We're kicking off our campaign for Washington State. We're going to kick it off so we can continue that the residents here, once they're educated properly, not by the BS that they see on the news, who is owned by the same people who own some of the fossil fuel companies. Look at how CNN and Fox News, see how they do things. Like Van Jones got a show on there, and I was like, cool, I get to watch Van Jones. Used to be the czar for Obama, and I said, that's great. I couldn't watch those guys smile. I couldn't watch those. But anyway, we have a lot of great speakers, and And John's going to introduce our next speaker here, Uncle Phil.
Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you, Ruben. First off, I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making it possible for there to be an us that recognizes what's right. And we're birthing this Nawtsamaat Alliance, right? This beautiful Coast Salish word that means one house, one heart, one prayer, united in power to protect the sacred. That's what we're here to do today. And that means we need to get to know each other. So Phil said, yes, we have to do a handshake circle. So this idea of unprecedented unified action, you can imagine me from the Brooklyn Jewish tribe. What a privilege and honor. What a privilege and honor it is to work with Ruben and Phil and so many of you that are in this room. So we need to come to know each other. We can't stay separate. Disunity is the worst thing. And we have a moment today to ignite something like we've never done before. And that's what we saw in South Dakota when the new CIA emerged right in front of us. Imagine a room full of ranchers and farmers on the second day who got to speak to a room full of First Nations and Native Americans. And the ranchers were standing up and shouting that the government's going to take their land and they won't let that happen. A room full of First Nation Native Americans like, wait a minute, guys, right? And this one woman said, it's so bad, it's so bad. And someone shouted out, yeah, they're treating you like Indians. And Orville Looking Horse goes up to her and shakes her hand and says, welcome to the tribe. All right. So Phil, first off, I just can't introduce Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr. without recognizing the incredible significance of his presence here. The CEO of United Indians of all nations for so many years, his working with Bernie White Bear, his teaching, his eldership, his wisdom, his love of his father and his mother. He teaches me and all of us every day. Phil, I'd ask that you come up and share with us how we do a handshake with Deborah Parker. Deborah from the vice chair of the Tulalip tribe. All right. And Macy.
Yes. And you know, and at this time, it's so important for us that have the honor of walking on this sacred land. So many tears and so many prayers have gone into in this entire area that we're so blessed to be able to look out and see the beautiful day around us and get up during the year and enjoy the beautiful rain and everything and travel up through Tulalip country and up further north. That for those, we'd like to ask those relatives from First Nations that touch this land, if you'd stand up for a moment, just stand up wherever you might be, stand up, and I just want to give them a little...
Clear?
Yeah. Yeah, and let's give them a little hand here. I think that this is where the Thanksgiving is, up here. Really, thank you. Thank you. Now, one of the teachings, and I'm glad Toshkar's Ruben here is ready to go with the drum. One of the teachings my father passed along to me was, walk the spiritual path with practical feet. So what I'm meaning is, I'm seeing this handshake circle, except it's running all over outside and back and forth. So we're going to modify this handshake circle a little bit, if you don't mind. And that is, Ruben is going to sing for us. Good to see you, Rick. So nice that you came. Toshka, Ruben's going to sing for us. And during this time, I'd like you, on your own, to crisscross around and at least shake hands with 18 people you don't know. 18. Here you go.
Put it there? Put it on there?
Yeah, put it on there.
One on each side.
Yeah, let your people from here. I'll play in time.
Oh, Hilo, Hilo,
And a couple of things. So For some people, the term Salish Sea is not a familiar term. So one of the things we're looking to dissolve in this conversation is the artificial political boundaries of Canada and United States and Washington and British Columbia. Let's be clear, climate knows no borders, oil doesn't know any borders, right? And this Salish Sea, which is a united space that we happen to have the privilege of being in, has representatives of many tribes here that we want to have a chance to speak, okay? So I'm going to have the good fortune to introduce Deborah Parker, who is a member of the board of the Tulalip tribe. She's a scholar, okay? She's a graduate of the University of Washington. Many know her because of her work with the VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act, that she made sure happened and got reinstated again. She's a remarkable leader, mother of 5 beautiful children. So we want to hear from the Tulalip Nation, and it gives me great privilege and pleasure to introduce Deborah Parker.
Haslahel. Good afternoon. Sitsayaltsa Sitsta. My traditional name is Sitsayaltsa, and I come from the Tulalip people, the Tulalip people. I am an enrolled member of the Tulalip tribes, and I currently have the honor of serving my tribe as one of our female leaders. And it's such a humbling experience, but it's also one of the most difficult positions to hold, because as some of you in this room know, that we are constantly fighting on behalf of our environment, on behalf of our traditional language, on behalf of the winged, the four-legged. We are constantly fighting on behalf of our children. And we look not only today, but we look at 7 generations. And as our chairman stated last week, beyond 7 generations now. We have a real crisis happening, and I believe that's why each and every one of you are here today. So I want to begin by honoring you for being in this room. Please give yourself a round of applause. Thank you. And I believe you're all in this room because you're an activist. You don't believe in sitting at home, am I right? Right, fist in the air. Well, it's such an honor to be here with you, each and every one of you here today. I see a lot of my good friends and relatives who I know have been at many events. And I just want to honor John Raymer here, who's one of the co-MCs, and Salish Ruben George. I know he's been traveling across the world, night and day. He's going. And we have 2 children here. My son Cedar, his Indian name is Skalus, and we have Kaya here. Her Indian name is Halia, and I also have my little guy running on the beach. His name is Witwa. So my message I'd like to share with each and every one of you here today is a message I shared in North Dakota yesterday, as a matter of fact. I caught my flight back too. It's a message of the woman nation. It's a message that I've learned from my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers, their great-grandmothers, many generations back. We are the life givers. And there's a role that we have in our society, in our community. And that role is not only the opportunity to give life to our children, but it's also a role that we need to be leaders in our community and protect our community. So for each and every one of you life givers, it's not just protecting our children and putting food on the table. But my question would be, what kind of food are you going to put on the table? If we have coal trains going across the country, which we do, if we start to look at big business and oil companies and degrading of the land, what kind of food are we going to feed our children? But I ask you to go steps deeper than just feeding our own babies. What about the creatures? What about our brothers and sisters in the sea? What about the birds that come down and scoop and get their meals for the water? They need fresh food as well. And so as a life giver, as we continue to move through the lands here, all of us as one now, it used to be just our Coast Salish people here. my community, and I see we have Justin Finkbonner. He's from the Lummi Nation here today. His relatives, the relatives of the Duwamish people, our Snohomish people, and all of our ancestors who had their longhouses across the waters here. Those are our people. And so now we have a greater community. And I like that, the thought of unified action, because yes, we have to come together. The males, the females, we have to come together. There's traditional roles that we hold, not just as a Coast Salish woman. I'm sharing these teachings with you. And I'm asking you to take some of your teachings, because some of that is to protect the land. It should be inherent in each and every one of us. It should be inherent. And when you teach your children, do you give thanks each and every day for that food on the table? For some of us, if we're not out there gathering the food, the berries, the salmon, then we may forget. And so today I'm grateful that we're not here to forget. We are here to remember. And so with each moment, with each breath, my hope and my prayer for each and every one of you is to remember some of those teachings. And I'm so grateful that you have a lot of good speakers here today, some very passionate, very loving, very caring people who are here today to remind you, to remind me, I'm here too, because I need my spirit fed. We all need our spirit fed. And so that's why I'm here today. And I'm grateful my children, they got up early because they know they wanted to be here. They wanted to feed their spirits. And I'm going to ask them to come forward and just share just a couple words, because they have strong medicines. They're looking at me like, Mom, are you kidding me? But I'm serious. And it's for all you parents out there and you're driving in the car with your kids, that's some of the best time to talk to your kids, because there's no TV, they're not in their bedrooms, no video games. So I'm going to ask my daughter first to come forward. Her traditional name is Halia. And this is what we did in the old times when I was younger. There's elders they took me to the microphone to see if I was listening. And so I'm going to see if my daughter's listening, and I know she has been. I'd like her just to share a few words with each and every one of you, because she travels most weekends to fight on behalf of the environment, and she takes me with her. Ladies and gentlemen, Halia Kaya George.
Wow, thank you, Mom. Thank you. Sorry, it's a little unexpected, but I know this is part of our teachings that we get. All she's doing really is, I'm happy I'm coming up here because she's passing down the lessons. When she was my age, she tells me the stories of how her elders and her mother and my grandparents, her mom and dad, they would bring her to these events, and they would make her speak. They'd be like, what are you doing? Don't be sitting down. You have to go up there and talk. This is your land. This is our teachings. You have to go up there. You have to help. Like, you're young. So I'm glad. And now she's passing on the role to me to protect the environment. I know it's big shoes to fill. My dad, Reuben George, and my mom, Deborah Parker. And I'm very grateful that all of you are here, and I'm very grateful my mom asked me to speak. And the environment, it's very dear to me. And thank you all for coming here today.
And then next we have my son, Cedar George. And I'm telling you, he is powerful. He's very powerful. He's like, no way, Mom, but we're going to do this.
Hello, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, this is kind of sudden. Thank you all for being here. We're taking the fight down to Seattle. Here on the West Coast, where we're civilized and fight for these things. But man, I don't really know what to say except for that. This is a a fight that so far that we're winning, you know, and I really take this serious. And I want where I go to school, the Marysville School District, to stand up and say no to oil, to say no to Kinder Morgan, and I want the whole school district to do that. I'm standing up for the younger kids because it's gonna sound kind of weird, but I see a lot of older people here. There should be a lot of younger kids here, more. And I want to help that dream to having 3 generations here, like me. My grandma's not here because she's in the oil tar sands protesting, putting up her life. And now that I'm getting to the age, I will finish that fight that she started and that my other generation started, my grandpa, that we started fighting for this land many years ago, and now it's my turn. And now, yeah, thank you. And you know, this is a fight that we are going to win. It's just that we need more people to know. We need every single person in here to be a ripple effect. That people you love, you need to tell them about this. Can't be just you and the family, you know, the environmentalist. Has to be your whole family. Has to be you, your cousins, your friends. They need to know about this. They need to know. Be the ripple effect. And then Washington will say, well, the whole state will say no to oil, Kinder Morgan. That's one of my dreams I have, you know. And it's kind of sudden. I wish I had more to say, but I can't really think. And thank you guys for listening to me.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
All right, let's give it up for our young people and the young voices that we have here. How many other young people do we have in the room here? Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. It's over here. Thank you for coming. From the youngest to the oldest, we thank you for coming. And to close out, to honor the woman nation, to honor the life givers, I'd like to ask my sisters, some of my sisters, to come forward, and we are going to sing an honor song. This is a woman's warrior song. So if you know the woman's warrior song, it's a song that's from up in Canada. And so if you know it, please come forward. Okay, it's originated from Stotliam Nation. And a brief explanation on the 4th verse. We're going to raise our fist in unity for Women's Warrior Song.
Well, thank Deborah. We share two kids together, and we're very good friends still. And I was asking my kids to, John and I were trying to ask them to come up and speak, and I guess how old they are, I should have learned now just to tell them. But they did good. Thank you. It's really nice, really beautiful. Like I said, when we started the Kinder Morgan campaign, we did a tour of like from the Vancouver to the Alberta tar sands. We toured all the municipalities around, and we talked to all the First Nations. And when we started, John Raymer, Uncle Phil, and myself, when we started talking about Washington State, the first two tribes we thought of was Tulalip, who came up, and also Lummi. We're very close in our spiritual homes with both nations, and it was wouldn't want to work with any other people and to start and would be able to help, and knowing that the nations have been to Supreme Court each twice on issues like this, and both have won twice. That what better team to team up with, right? So, you know, when I get to travel, I'm lucky enough to, sometimes by coincidence, sometimes we know, to meet up with people in different parts of the country. And my good brother coming up, Justin Finkbonger, we get to meet in some of the same places because he does amazing good work too. He just took a whole bunch of youth from his nation on the canoe journey up to northern British Columbia, and they paddled all the way from here, and he was the lead on it. So not only is he a leader for the community, but he's a really huge advocate for the youth and helping teaching our culture, and it's so important. Like my daughter, she's, you know, I'm going to brag about her. She read a 400-page book in 2 days when she's 10 years old. She doesn't think it's a big deal to me because I couldn't do that. But with our education, both my kids, they believe that the decisions that they're going to make for their future is going to be what's going to guide them through that process is culture and spirituality, and that's what Justin teaches. So let's give a warm welcome to Justin Finkbonger from Lummi Nation. Yeah, warrior up! Woo!
Oh, Sigan nostalgia. My Indian name is Squashimit. I'm a member of the Lummi Nation, Nooksack, Semiahmoo, Swali. Our tributary is located up in the Bellingham, Fraser River areas. As for my son's Caden Finkbonger. I'm raising him to be a warrior. One of his fathers that I share with him is the leader and canoe skipper of the Sacred Water Canoe family. They sing and do a lot of work here in Seattle whenever they're called upon, whenever we're called upon, whenever we're called upon. We go and speak from our hearts, from our minds, from our spirits, what carries us on land and in water. We built a canoe. I built a canoe for our youth to take our children back to our hereditary villages in the San Juan Islands, where we will rebuild our longhouses. We will reclaim our territories. We will reclaim our beaches. We will reclaim our clamshell beds. We will reclaim our fishing reef net sites. The Lummi Nation has embarked on a large effort to rebuild the reef net sites. A reef net which resembles the legs and the embryo of a mother, a gift from the Creator that helps us catch our fish for thousands and thousands of years. And last year alone, through the leadership of Chairman Tim Ballou, we designed a reef net, and we're able to put it back out on the water right up at Cherry Point Once again, Cherry Point, the village of the old ones. Cherry Point is now the target of being built, one of the largest coal import, export ports in the North American continent. They're trying to build this on top of our village site. They want us to go and conduct archaeological digs to show us where the burial sites are, to show us where the village sites are. And we tell them, hell no. We won't. We're taught not to disturb those sites. Our people are put to rest there. We respect that. When we don't ask you to dig up your cemeteries, we don't ask you to dig up your people, to rebuild cities and other culture and other things. So respect ours. And that's the message we're trying to carry. Respect ours as we respect you. By rebuilding our canoes, we're taking our people back out on the water to reconnect that DNA, that gene. I took 11 kids, 550 miles this year. We pulled every day from the shores of Lummi Nation to Waldron Island to Sayout Nation on Vancouver Island. And we stopped 20 more different communities. We sang, we danced, we prayed. We prayed for the waters. We carried the message about the health and welfare of our waters. All the way up to Bella Bella, Canada, where we celebrated for 7 more days and sang and danced. And every time our children get on the water, it's a form of healing. Every paddle, we figured out with 27 paddles in 1 minute, which it comes out to 57 paddles per minute, which comes out to 27,000 paddles a day in 5 hours. 27,000 paddles for our young men and young women to start to learn to heal on that water. It equates to all the different tears that our ancestors shed over the years, all the healing that needs to be done on the water, and we're being reconnected to that. Today I'm in mourning. Caden's great-grandfather, my grandfather, just learned that he has cancer all over his liver. He's already survived stomach cancer from eating the fish where he fishes, right up there at Cherry Point, where Arco, BP, and Talico is also located. All that pollutant that comes, all that water that comes flushed out of those refineries, floats right down to our clam beds, where our silverfish are, where our kings swim, where our sockeye swim through. This season was supposed to be a record run of 20 to 74 million sockeye returning back up to Fraser. They were supposed to replenish some of the economic woes and the disasters that our tribes have been facing for our fishermen. We come from a long line of fishermen, and due to the warm waters in our sea, the fish, there's a 99% diversion rate. All those fish have now gone north to around Vancouver Island, and our people are out there on the water trying to make a living. Our treaty right, uphold our treaty rights and practice our traditional lifeways. And today, we ask, for prayers, for your prayers, that the salmon return back to our waters and replenish our people. Yes. I'd like to raise our hands to each and every one of you. Imagine this, 200 people. If you could email 100 people when you get home tonight, imagine the effect that could have about the good work that we've shared here today. I should go see you.
Beautiful. All right. So let's be clear. There are many fossil fuel threats to the beautiful Salish Sea, right? And they're all valid. And I just want to take 2 minutes to clarify why this term Kinder Morgan because it's clear to me that it isn't really understood down here in our community, okay? So what I'm about to tell you is factual. It may seem unbelievable, but it's actually true. There was a bankrupt attorney who went to work for a company called Enron. His name is Richard Kinder, okay? Richard Kinder left at the right time because his buddies ended up in jail. He bought the Enron oil operations. The Enron oil operations are what's called the Kinder Morgan, all right? And in the process of purchasing those oil operations, they bought a pipeline that goes from Alberta down to the Burrard Inlet. And they are proposing to triple the volume of the tar sands oil to bring it down into the inlet, into tankers 3 times the size of Exxon Valdez. That would flow across the waters. We're talking about going from 4 sailings a month to 35 sailings a month. Now, the problem is the oil is so thick that to get it to move through the pipes, they have to put in a solution. And that solution is proprietary, and they won't disclose what's in it. So if you look at the city of Vancouver, who said, no way is this going to happen, they said 3 claims. We don't have enough information to plan, we don't have the response capability, and we don't have the money to afford this. We're talking about going through the Hecate Straits, which is the 4th most treacherous waters on the planet, with these tankers this size coming through our waters. So we down here don't know a lot about Kinder Morgan, and it's not the only threat. But I heard Fred Feldman, I know Fred's here, says, you know, you add up all the other threats, they're not as bad as that one. Now we can pick our poison, right? There's lots of reasons for us to stand up and stop this idea of a fossil fuel corridor here. But that's what's going on, let's be clear. So this is what we want to do. We want you guys to talk to each other for a couple of minutes. We're going to ask you to break into triads, 3s. We want you to share with each other what brings you here. So here's the 2 questions that we have here. We want you to share with each other what in your life brought you here today, and what's your vision of how things could be different if we work together. Okay? So this is really important that everybody get engaged. So we're going to take a few minutes, let's say 2 minutes each, pair up, so in 3s, so there'll be 3 of you. Each person gets 2 minutes to answer the 2 questions. What in your life brought you here today? And what's your vision of how things could be different if we work together? Game on.
You know, I look how backwards our Canadian and our American governments are. I look at the subsidies that your government has given. I think Van Jones was saying that so far it's been close to $1 trillion of your taxpayers' money given to fossil fuel companies. Look at all the homeless that we have, and you know, it's crazy that they could just come in and buy the media. We see that. They come in and they buy the politicians. I don't know if you heard or seen online, or because we have to see online because there's media blackouts for some of the disasters that come around all over the world. But who would think that there's 20 spills a day in the United States? Who knew that? Media blackouts. Well, of course, my kids know it. Yeah. They want to share more, I think. No, I'm just kidding. But it's crazy that that's happening. You know, I'm proud to say to Tsleil-Waututh Nation, when there's economic development success with our wind turbines or any of our other companies, we don't service a 1%. Every position, every job, every program is supplemented by economic development, education, social service, employment, training, all the way from prenatal to babies to the elders. Everybody we try to take care of, including our lands and our waters. We did an elk reintroduction program into our traditional territory. We shipped in 27 elk. Just on the outskirts of Vancouver, now thrive to almost 300 in 7 short years. You know, we do salmon enhancement programs for all the rivers and streams in our territory. And you know, we don't tag those salmon. Go out to the Pacific and the fishermen catch it and say that's a Tsleil-Waututh salmon, put it back. Our actions are for everybody. They're for everybody, including them, including everybody, the animals, everything. So then you look at this government that we have. The tailing pond that burst up in British Columbia, Bill Bennett is the mining minister for British Columbia. Guess who financed him? The tailing pond that burst Mount Polly. The owner of that tailing pond gave him $500,000 and threw him a big party and charged something like $5,000 to $10,000 a plate. And everybody donated to him, or he raised millions of dollars. That was the owner of the tailing pond. That was the owner of that mine pit. So it's easy to understand why those policies are weak. They're in cahoots with one another. Those policies are weak. Nobody's cleaning it up. Not only aren't they cleaning it up, they're putting the hospital waste in the empty tailing pond because it leaked out. My friends, they caught a salmon, and it was in their net and it was still kicking. And they picked it up and the skin came off. And they say the water's drinkable. You know, one of the chiefs said, he said, you come here and drink it. For real, right? You come here and drink it. Yeah, exactly. Let's bring it to them. Let's show them. But they hide. They're good. Kinder Morgan, he still has his big mansion in Texas. But anyway, I just want to share a little bit about that. And I know our relations here in Nisqually, right in the capital in Olympia, we're doing the same thing. And what we're doing and what we're showing is we're coming together in solidarity. And so I want to invite Grace up here to say some words. Thank you.
Masi. Masi, I'm here with 3 generations. When I was a little girl, we drank from the stream that come from near the tracks, and that was our sacred water. We can no longer drink from that water because the spring is gone. They rearranged the highway. They rearranged the tracks. That spring doesn't fall right there no more, right there next to the Nisqually River. The oil and the coal, along with the fracking, importing, it comes right through Olympia Port. So they load the trains. It comes right through next to our drinking water, which is in McAllister Springs. That's the drinking water for Lacey and Olympia. So I don't just speak for Nisqually tribe. Also, I want to let you know that I have other Nisqually tribal members that couldn't be here. They sent me because they went a different direction to speak. That's Hanford McLeod. But I want to say, Masi, but the springs is sacred, where the water is cultural, where people of the river, people of the grasslands. That's a Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854. That's signed in Olympia. Has my mom, Caroline Bird, my daughter, Exana, they've gone with me to public hearings against coal and oil. We've gone to, I started this journey, I'll tell you the story. I started this journey in Lummi, 2012. Homemade signs. I stood with the Duwamish, the Lummi Nation, other tribal nations, and Seattle Public Hearing, Cowlitz Public Hearing, Tacoma Public Hearing, Olympia, the totem pole with Joel James that came through. I stood with them with the first totem pole. I stood with them during the second totem pole in Nisqually. I brought awareness to my people. You know, our water is sacred. As we have a garden that grows. It's not far from the tracks. I work there. I work in the Nisqually Garden. We have a crew of 8. We have Natural Resources, who has a crew of 10. We have the Culture Center, We have a longhouse right there next to the tracks. And this is all sacred to us. We have so much more than just our culture. We have the water, the land, the animals, the birds, the streams. I'm a graduate at Stream Steward program. Just graduated Wazoo Master Gardener program. So, but I speak for the plants, the shellfish, and our people. They sent me. So I just want to tell you that I've been here all along, and I've stand with you today. And we are one voice, one nation. Woo!
Robert Satayakam, are you here from the Puyallup tribe? Okay, all right, good. We wanted to make sure Robert spoke if he was here. All right, so then I'm going to let you, Ruben, introduce the man.
Uncle Phil is how I known him and how I've been working with him for over 20 years. He'll tell you since I was a little kid, and when he first built the first sweat lodge up in our territory, and I was little, and my brother, I didn't go because it was too dark and too hot, but my brothers did, and they dug up the end of the sweat. And one of them snuck out, but that's how I know Uncle Phil is first and foremost is one of our spiritual leaders. That's how I know him, but not many people know because he doesn't talk about it, but he's a Harvard grad. He's a professor. He has a doctorate. He's traveled all over the world. He did some amazing work in Southeast Asia. And it scares me sometimes. We went on amazing safaris together. We went down to Panama, and we're sitting with half the chiefs of Panama and with the Jane Goodall conference, and she brought us down, and Uncle Phil came and sat beside me, and he goes, you know, there's 300,000 indigenous people here in the country, 3 million? And he goes, native vote. And I said, yeah, let's tell him. So I said, if you write down conditions, give them to the presidential candidates, you could create a native vote. And they all agreed. And they said, but you got a problem because we're only half the chiefs. You have to tell the rest. So we caught airplanes and we caught water taxis, and we got in, well, he got out in a dugout canoe, went way upriver and in these places of middle of nowhere, and he jumped in the river and almost got dragged down the river. But we had some amazing adventures together. And some things scare me, Uncle Phil. Geez, he was in the revolution in Thailand, and there's the ousting of the president. Not the ousting, he was sick, so the old leader wanted to step in and take over. So the current presidential people, they wanted to stay in there, so it started to be a big fight. And I saw this guy on the ground, and he was hiding. And then the next 3 pictures were him standing up and shooting. They're shooting at each other, and I was like, who took that picture? And he goes, I did. And I was like, what are you doing? Get out of there. And he goes, but when we do travel, it is dangerous sometimes. When we're in Panama, 5 relations were murdered and 170 were injured. It's just sick. Some of the eyes were gouged out, and that's who we're traveling with. But we needed to share their story. We needed to work with them, and we needed to help them with their movement and through Uncle Phil's work. The president they wanted won by 60,000 votes in Panama. And 2 things that you set initiative for that you wanted in there and they ended up putting in there was, 1, you recognizing the United Nations Declaration on Indigenous Rights as law. That was huge. And 2 was to be one of the leads of fossil fuel development. To be one of the leads in green energy development in the southern. But Uncle Phil, he does all this amazing work, and I do follow him around the world, and geez, he tires me out, and is amazing. So let's give a warm welcome to Phil Lane, Chief Phil Lane.
Thank you. Well, you know, the grandmother once told me something that was so, so important. And she'd asked me, she said, Takoja, she said, what is the most sacred ceremony of all ceremonies? And this is kind of my younger days, and I've been recounting all these different ceremonies, a little bit of pride that I'd got a chance to participate in. And she told me, she's, Takoja, she said, grandson, those are all great ceremonies. But the most sacred, the most holy of all ceremonies is the birth of it. A birth of a child. Then she looked right in my eyes. She said, then who are you? Who are you? Who are we? We are sacred beings. And that's why, if anything I have to say, you understand, it's because you already knew it. If there are any qualities I might reflect, I can say positive or negative. It's because you already knew them. But it's really a great honor to be here on this sacred land of the Daybreak Star, as well as Coast Salish territories, Duwamish territories, and all the Coast Salish peoples who we are all here as their guests. I'm really thankful. I'm also thankful when I'm in British Columbia. I always stand up and say, I'm so thankful for standing on unceded, unsurrendered land. It's never been surrendered. But I want to qualify that with just one little thought. Because we've seen this great leadership here in the Northwest. It's just amazing to have been here in 1973 with Bernie White Bear before this was built, and to see where the great First Nations tribes were at that time after suffering tremendous losses. Tremendous losses. I mean, it was nothing to go up and find losses of 90% of people dying from disease and so forth and so on. But now to see how the tribes have awakened, and that's why I always say also, whenever I'm in Canada, I always want to say, I give my profound, heartfelt thanksgiving to our incredible Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, because in his total unawareness, he's awakened a sleeping spiritual giant. And this sleeping spiritual giant is awakening everywhere. And recognizing that these boundaries that separate us as a human family, these boundaries that separate us from our Mother Earth, and from a vision of the future in which all our children can enjoy the beauty of this world we live in, that we know the time has come now, as prophesied, as promised. As they say, this is no longer the day of prophecies. This is the day of the fulfillment of those prophecies. And those prophecies promise without question that after a long spiritual wintertime, we would come together in unprecedented unified action and totally change the world that had disintegrated to the place we can find it today. And so that's what I see us here for. And I just want to briefly, because there's so many wonderful speakers here, I want to listen and learn. They always say, seek to understand before seeking to be understood. So it's so important that we listen to one another. Because each one of us, again, is a sacred being. And so each one of us have these sacred things to say. But I want to go back just for a moment to connect this treaty that's being signed on the morning of the 22nd of September. This is really an historic occasion. It is an occasion in which all humanity, all the human beings, not only from here, from everybody can celebrate. And I want to take you back to what happened on January 25, 2013, when back on the high plains of the Dakotas, through a dream of a beautiful sister-faced spotted eagle, an elder grandmother who'd passed the spiritual world came to her. And she opened her eyes in this dream, and all of a sudden, this door opened, and here were standing all these elders from the past. Some were dressed in their traditional clothing, and some were dressed back at the turn of the century, 1900s, kind of these old suits and ties. And she looked at them, and they were so overwhelming in their intensity, spiritual intensity. She closed her eyes and she turned the other way, and the same thing happened. She turned the way, the same thing happened. She turned the other way, and the same things happened. And finally, she closed her eyes, and her grandmother, Mrs. Ree, actually related back to Struck by the Ree, one of our great Ihanktawa chiefs, said, "It's in the treaties. It's in the treaties." And so about that time, simultaneously, we realized we wanted to reach out from up in this part of the territory of this great Turtle Island and reach over to the Dakotas, because they were facing similar challenges with the Keystone XL. Because really, you know, you've heard Toshka Rubin speak about what's happening in Alberta tar sands. It really is a tragedy of immense proportions. Something, unless you've been there, there's no way to encompass it sitting here in the beauty that we're sitting in. And it's killing human beings. It's killing the earth. It's killing the natural environment. And so it became very clear when we started this, really just a little over 3 years ago, through the great work of Toshka Rubin and Tsleil-Waututh Nation, who first took the leadership, and it began to spread further and further and further, that the only way to stop this was to cut off any way for it to deliver what was inside it. To slowly cut it off. And so one of the primary threats was the Keystone XL. And what happened when Faith began looking into the treaties, she found that the first written treaty that existed in the United States, by the way, there was many treaties prior to the coming of other relatives here. We all lived here together in relative peace and harmony because of these agreements we had with each other. You know, and when somebody got out of line, there's also stories about how that was taken care of as well. But we truly did have a union of the condor and eagle, a kinship trail that went clear from the tip of North America, to the tip of South America, across the Americas, and it was a kinship trail, because making relatives was what our core of our society is about. And we traded. And part of the prophecy said that this kinship trail would be broken, be shattered, and broken up. Anyway, so what happened was that some of you have heard of the great Pawnee Nation. How many here have heard of the Pawnees? The Pawnees were an incredibly powerful nation that were right in the heart of Turtle Island. And of course, you see them in Dancing with Wolves, they kind of play the bad guys. They're not all bad guys. They were simply human beings that didn't know what was happening because of the South and the East and the West and North were being shoved against. At one time, over 50,000 relatives there. Reduced, by the way, down the end down to about 700. And so finally, at the urging of the United States government and the Ponkas, who were kind of allies on both sides, a decision was made between the Ihanktawa Dakota, that's one of the 7 great council fires of the Great Sioux Nation, that there should be a treaty signed, a physical treaty. So on January 23rd, 1863, 6 Itashas, 6 heads of family, chiefs of families, Itashas, came from the Pawnees and 6 from the Ihanktawas on a hillside in Nebraska. They signed this treaty, not to ever fight one another again, not to ever draw blood against one another again. And that was celebrated on the 23rd of January 2013 as 150 years of an unbroken treaty. Never broken. Never broken at all. But based in that treaty, a new treaty was born. And it was the International Treaty to Protect the Sacred Tar Sands Projects. It has 7 articles. It was jointly written between Pawnee attorneys, Ihanktawan attorneys, attorneys from West Coast Environmental Law. It was quite a group effort. But we were able to come to an agreement It cites all the wonderful other declarations that have been made, the Fraser River Declaration, other agreements that have been made between indigenous people, the Court of Mother Earth that was uplifted by Evo Morales, President Evo Morales in Bolivia. And so this was signed then on the 25th of January 2013. And joined not only the Pawnee Nation, the Yahanktawas, but in the ceremonies that preceded it, relationships, representatives of the entire Great Sioux Nation were there to share and smoke the pipe with the Pawnees. So in a sense, ending all this conflict in a beautiful way. And then following that, that same treaty was taken to Ottawa, or was signed by members of the Save the Fraser River Declaration. That's 170 First Nations up in the northern part of British Columbia in the Yukon. It was taken to Los Angeles, the largest climate rally in history there, and signed by other nations and tribes there. And it was taken to Tsleil-Waututh, where others came and joined and signed there at the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. And has, you might say, it's a sister treaty. I guess it could be a brother treaty too, however you want to look at it. But anyway, sister-brother treaty. They are treaties that stand beside each other. And it's about protecting the sacredness of the Salish Sea from whatever is destroying that beauty that we can hear spoken about of how it truly is and was. But there's another dimension to it. I'm going to finish this little part, and close it. There's so many other good people I want to listen to and learn from. There's the other side, is restoring it. It's not just protecting it, it's restoring the sacred. It is restoring this incredible territory that we live in here with the leadership. And I want to say that the reason why this has worked so well in British Columbia, when we were asked 4 years ago, I was asked if I would help out, and I said, well, you know, I'm not from the Salish Nation here. I said, you know, that's their can of worms. That's Tsleil-Waututh's can of worms. That's Tulalip's can of worms. And as loving as we are, you have, let's say you have your can of worms. You're again, I've seen you before. John has his can of worms. And I don't want to get in John's can of worms, right? Right. And so it's about respecting one another's tribes. But I said, two things I said will enable this to happen. I told this to Toshka Rubin. And to the people who asked me to help out, I said, first of all, you've got to respect the leadership of indigenous people and know within their treaties they have an head share. And that they have been waiting for many, many years to work together with other human beings who want to see this thing straightened up. That's one. And the other is there needs to be a spiritual foundation. And so for 3 months, Rex Weiler, co-founder of Greenpeace, and many others came, and for all summer long they came to sweat lodges and various ceremonies and so forth. And because of this great relationship and the great leadership we've seen from the Salish First Nations, we were able to come to this point. So it's not just about protecting, it's about restoring. And that's why I just want to throw this out here. I think, looking at this beautiful sunlight, we know there are alternatives to petroleum. We know there are alternatives to what we're doing now. And if they're not here right now, they're going to be here real quick. We know that for those that are wanting to make as much money as possible, they want to sell as much petroleum, as much gas, as much as they can, as fast as they can. And we see this price driven up. That's why it's so interesting to find out that both solar and wind farms are not a high priority here. In fact, they're extremely highly tariffed because, you know, we don't want to have these alternative energies when we have, in fact, want to sell all this oil and gas. So just one challenge, I'm going to step off, and that is, I believe, how many here attend a church or a temple or a mosque or go to us? I don't know if you do this on sweat lodge, but a lot of you here, right? A house of worship, a place of prayer. I believe, to start off this, that I think every one of our houses of worship needs to be turned into a solar-powered place. That's just my last thought. So thank you so much.
So wait, Phil, I don't want you to leave yet. So where's Joe?
Right here.
Okay.
I'm Joe. I'm in long-term recovery, and I wanted to honor you with this book. It's Every Addict's Friend, Jimmy Kay, which you know as my mentor. And when we were younger, hanging out with you, you taught me well, and I honor you for that. And now that I get to travel a lot, it's hard catching up with you. I want to honor you this book. It's Jimmy Kay, our co-founder of Narcotics Anonymous, and we honor the work you've done for our fellowships and all the 12-step fellowships.
Thanks.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank
all
you so
my
much.
relations.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, thank you so much. You know, I gotta say this at this point. I always say this when I go to gatherings. I said, if you want to have any sickness whatsoever, addiction's the best one you can have. Yeah, I mean, it's great to be an addict because there's only one cure. That's a spiritual path. So if you're going to, by the way, I'm not wishing anybody to be an addict here in the room. I'm sure not. But I'm just saying that there's only one thing when we get addicted to this physical world, in relationship or whatever, only one way out. And that is to know there's something much greater than ourselves that can take us out of anything, including this situation we're facing right now, this struggle we're in. There is a power that no power in heaven and earth can overcome. So thank you so much. It's a great honor to receive this book from the founder of.
Thank you, Phil. All right. So let me remind you a couple things. Some of you that read the invitation, I want to bring some clarity to what we're doing here today. So we're birthing this alliance, not unlike the new CIA, our Nawtsamaat Alliance, right, for unprecedented unified action. So we have a document that kind of says, well, what is the Nawtsamaat Alliance, and what are you asking of us to do? Because at some moment, I bet you're going to wonder, because we're going to ask you to actually, at some moment, stand with us. So the most important word, I think, that's on the top of this FAQ that's in the back there is the word draft. Okay? Because this is emerging. So it isn't like you're invited to come find out about something that's already been fully baked. It's something that we're creating together. All right? And the answer to the question, what is the Nawtsamaat Alliance? What we wrote here is that the Nawtsamaat Alliance is an empowered coalition of Coast Salish indigenous peoples, environmental, interfaith, and youth activists, and impassioned community members who love the land and waters of the Salish Sea and call it home. Nestled in the heart of the Pacific Northwest and ranging from Washington State to British Columbia, the Alliance was created to heighten awareness of the increased risks and threats to our beautiful region by a fossil fuel industry that continues to exploit and destroy it. The Alliance mobilizes international, cross-cultural, and co-creative joint action to block fossil fuel projects such as the proposed Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion in British Columbia, as well as oil trains, coal trains, oil tankers, ports, and other pipelines. The Nawtsamaat Alliance is calling for unprecedented unified action to protect and restore the Salish Sea and the communities surrounding it. Okay? So, and we got the salmon coming soon and lots to do before, but I'm going to share with you at some point some of the other answers to this question about what you can do and what we can do together. And to make it clear that this is truly unprecedented unified action, and that includes all of us. And it's been my incredible experience of every time I've been with Phil and Ruben, and every time I've been in Indian country and I've reached out my hand, it's always been shaken. I've always been welcomed. I've always been treated with love and respect. This is the ultimate compassion game. At some moment, we got to tell the truth. The people that were living here were playing a different game. There was the stewardship game. And our ancestors brought over the ownership game. We said, let me show you how this works. Oh, this is mine. It's not yours. Now look where this has gotten us. If we keep playing the ownership game, it's a game about more. We can't ever get enough. More, more, more. Why don't we change the game? Let's play and follow the lead of the indigenous people who said, no, there's a stewardship game. The game isn't more, the game is better. Let's make things better. Better for the future generations, better for our children and our children's children. Could it be that simple? So, I know you know this, but sometimes you just gotta say it. And we gotta have a little humility and say, I recognize, my gosh, we were wrong. You guys had it right. Now we gotta pay the price. And hopefully we have enough mindfulness and awareness that we're gonna come together and allow that leadership to take us to a place where we are making a better world. So, this room is full of environmentalists. Carlo, you talk about an earth warrior. You know, all right? I hope he's not out stopping a coal train somewhere. He's supposed to talk next. Okay. It was, you know, by the way, that phrase, I was at the privilege to be in Vancouver when Ruben's mother, Taha, was standing in front of a crowd of 1,500 people saying, warrior up, warrior up. That's where that phrase comes from. To honor Ruben, your mother. And it was Chief Dan George who said, the earth is alive as much as we're alive. We want to know how alive we are, that's how alive the earth is. So you can tell things are in the abeyance. But thank God for people like you, Carlo, who put your actions where your mouth is, take the risks every day. I mean, he's been coming to my house. Where are you? Well, I'm out here in Everett stopping a train. I mean, this guy's got humility and he's got the passion and determination to do what's right. He is an earth warrior. So I want Carlo to speak for the environmentalists that are in this room and make sure that we've got the indigenous voice, we have the voice of youth, and then we're going to have the spiritual voices, we're going to do a ceremony, and then we're going to have a salmon bake. You got tables full of people coming up with solutions here. This is about us getting to know each other in new ways. Carlo Voli.
Thank you, John. All right. Thank you. What an honor to be here with these incredible brothers and sisters from the First Nations and Washington tribes. Who here is ready to protect the sacred? Who here is ready to protect the Salish Sea? Who here is ready to protect all the sacred lands and waters, forests and mountains in this region? Who here is ready to work together to achieve all of this? And to follow the leadership of our indigenous brothers and sisters? All right, I always like to remind people that there's so much leadership going on in the protection of our Salish Sea and this whole region and the resistance to fossil fuels from our indigenous brothers and sisters that a lot of times we don't realize that is going on. Like the Cowlitz tribe, opposing the proposed Longview coal export terminal, and Fawn Sharp with the Quinault Nation opposing and halting the proposed oil train terminals in Grace Harbor. And the Swinomish tribe are the leading tribe in the nation working on climate mitigation in the Skagit Valley and protecting the salmon and everything that gives them life and their culture. And obviously the Lami Nation opposing the Cherry Point proposed coal export terminal, the Tsleil-Waututh opposing the Kinder Morgan pipeline, the Unistoten camp further up in northern BC. They're building longhouses and permaculture gardens on the path of a proposed liquid natural gas pipeline. So there's a lot of leadership going on, and I think we non-Indigenous people are ready to support and follow that leadership. Are we ready? And this Nawtsamaat Alliance is one great way of achieving that. I really want to honor all our the environmental groups that are here today and who, when we invited them to join the Nawtsamaat Alliance, there wasn't a little inch of doubt. They were ready to support our Indigenous brothers and sisters and work together. Washington Environmental Council, Climate Solutions, Puget Soundkeeper, lots of Greenpeace, USA, the Salish Sea Marine Sanctuary Vision. All these folks have tables in the back. It's good to go and find out what they're doing. And I work very closely with 350 Seattle and Rising Tide Seattle. And Backbone Campaign. And since January, we've been fighting a lot of these oil trains that are passing through our region. And in the last, talking about resistance, there's a lot of resistance starting to happen in the Pacific Northwest. Just in the month of July, there were 4 oil train blockades in the Seattle area. In the month of August, there was another oil train blockade, and just last week, there was another oil train blockade. So I know in this room, there are some of the folks who actually stood on the path of those oil trains and got arrested, and I'd like them to stand up at this point. We have, and I want to honor them. Thank you. These are all my fellow Earth warriors. It takes a lot of courage to do that kind of action. So we got to work on all kinds of levels, and resistance is an important part of that. I also want to honor, I'm also part of a shamanic support group called the Salish Sea Circle, and we meet every first Sunday of the month to do healing work for the Salish Sea on an energetic, spiritual level. And today is the first Sunday of the month, so I asked all my fellow Salish Sea Circle brothers and sisters to come to this event instead of doing our work, because this is part of the work, all of us being here together. So, by the way, I was just asked to speak last night, so I haven't prepared anything. I was just thinking last night, I grew up in Spain. My father's Italian, my mother's from Seattle. I have 4 generations back in this region. So even though I have an accent, I have a strong ancestor connection with this region. And in Spain, when we went to history class, we learned the history of the place where we were several thousand years back. And here, we only learned the history of this place about 170 years back. What happened to all those, 10,000 years before the European settlers came to this region? Why aren't we learning the history, the deep history, cultural history of this place we live in? So I think that's really important to start doing that. And I also feel really grateful to have had the honor of collaborating with some incredible Native brothers and sisters, like my friend Sweetwater here, who's been doing some incredible work with I Don't Know More Washington. And in fact, there is a connection between the treaty and I Don't Know More Washington and the water blessings. A year and a half ago, in January of 2013, I had just come back from supporting the tar sands blockade in Texas, and I found out Brother Phil Lane Jr. was facilitating the treaty to protect the sacred in South Dakota that he was talking about earlier. And I was really inspired by that, and I shared with my friend Sweetwater, why don't we do a meditation to protect the sacred? And hopefully some Native brothers and sisters will come. And Sweetwater said, well, Native people are not going to come to an event that's being organized by non-Native people, which tends to be true. So out of that, Sweetwater was inspired to start the I Don't Know More, Protect the Sacred Washington, the water blessings, beautiful water blessings that took place last year at Gasworks Park and Golden Gardens. And I've learned so much from the wisdom and teachings of Sweetwater. So thank you for that. Yeah, this is a time to build more alliances. I also want to acknowledge all the work all of us are doing here. Who here has been volunteering at a river or a beach cleanup at some point in their lives in this region? Who here has been at a coal export hearing or an oil export hearing? Who here was at last Friday's totem pole journey blessing at St. Mark's? Okay, so a lot of us are already doing a lot. And this Nawtsamaat Alliance is a great opportunity to do all that together and join with our indigenous brothers and sisters in their leadership, in their original sacred place that we have the honor of sharing with them. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to pass it on to Chris Wilkie from Puget Sound Keeper.
All right. Hold on, brother. Thanks, Carlo. So, yeah, he got asked to speak last night. I got asked to speak about 11 o'clock this morning, so thanks for that, Carlo. At the time, I was out on my boat, a small 23-foot sailboat out on the Salish Sea on Puget Sound, and we were blessed with an encounter with a small group of harbor porpoise. Beautiful little dolphins that are about that big. It's fantastic. I've been out the last week. I've seen them 4 or 5 times this week. The Salish Sea and Puget Sound are full of many wonders. The silver salmon are running right now. They are a fraction of what they should be. If you've ever been to Alaska or northern BC, you know what abundance looks like. And we have diversity here, but we don't have the abundance, and we need to recapture that abundance. But we still have all the species, so they can rebuild. But I want to thank the organizers of this event and all the people that came from all the different First Nations to help form this coalition. I think that this is going to be really powerful. I think that the fossil fuel companies are going to take note as we build this. And I just want to thank you for taking the step to help bring this alliance together. So thank you very much. And thank you. Who here is from identifies with an environmental organization? Who came here today? Who here is from a faith-based or a spiritual-based group who came here today? And who here is from a tribal First Nation that came to help form this alliance? And who here is a citizen of the Salish Sea? Yes. So we are under assault right now from fossil fuels. My organization, Puget Sound Keeper, has been working on the wonky aspects of water quality for a number of years, stormwater and parts per billion of copper and lead and things like that. We were not even thinking about the fossil fuel development until the last 2 or 3 years when they started proposing these mega projects. Coal, the oil trains that have only been running for about 2 years now and that seem to have several disasters every year. They're just bringing this through, and their mentality is they want to just do whatever it takes and maybe fix it later if there's any screw up. And we can't take that chance with the Salish Sea. And then the link to climate change. The waters here are more acidic than the marine waters anywhere else on the planet. And it's because of carbon pollution in the atmosphere, and we are basically a test tube for what the rest of the oceans are going to be like in 40 or 50 years. It's already making it so that the oysters aren't propagating, and the tiny plankton at the base of the food chain aren't able to propagate. And so this is a water quality issue. And our main issue that we've been working on is the coal terminal, but stopping Kinder Morgan is absolutely as big as that, and these oil trains are another thing waiting. But just taking into account the proposed coal terminal, and let's make sure we use that language from now on. We don't talk about the coal terminal at Cherry Point. We talk about the proposed coal terminal, because we're going to beat it. I hear a lot of people say the coal terminal. There's no coal terminal there. And just that terminal, that proposed terminal, see here I go, that proposed coal terminal alone equals the entire footprint of the carbon footprint of the entire state of Washington. So if everybody in Washington went fossil fuel free and went solar and rode their bikes and just unplugged completely, and we let that coal terminal, proposed coal terminal get built, it's all for naught. So we have to stop it. And the Kinder Morgan pipeline, as what I'm learning through this coalition, is even bigger as far as a carbon bomb. So we have to stop that. So
Anyway, thank you so much for having me here, and Carlo for organizing this, John, and Chief. Thank you.
All right, Chris. Wow, thank you. Thank you. There's some neat development that came out of the work that we did in Vancouver. Like Uncle Phil was saying, the driving force, what we've been doing has been the spirit. And he was right. When about 12 environmental groups approached us 3.5 years ago and asked if we could help against the Kinder Morgan campaign, and we said, sure, we will. And that's what Uncle Phil was saying. We said, we will, and Rebecca, we have to give her a hand because she brought that meeting together. Let's give her a hand. She put the work in motion to make that Kinder Morgan campaign going. But what we wanted to do, and what the elder said, is we'll show you why. Let us show you why we do. Let us show you why we love the land and why we're a part of it. And that triggered something in Vancouver, because in the last year in particular, I spoke with many, many different religious organizations, from Baha'i to Buddhist to Catholic to Christian to all these different religious organizations. And you know, with the idea of when Red Cloud, is the famous Lakota spiritual leader, he came to our sweat lodge, and my brother said, you know, we'd be really honored if Uncle, if you ran the ceremony for us. And he said, nope. He said, when I come to your house, I'll do the ceremony your way. When you come to my house, we'll do it my way. And that's why I approached this idea, because my grandfather, Chief Dan George, who was an honorary member of the Jewish and Christian faith, and he traveled with the same message. He said, whatever you are, and whatever you're practicing, just be good at it. If you're going to carry a pipe, or you're going to be longhouse, spirit dancer, or you're going to be Catholic or Christian, he said, be good at it. He said, look clear to the fundamentals of humanity that create the foundation of that religious or spiritual belief. And those are easy, because that's love and honor and respect and dignity, pride, compassion, understanding, truth, all those good things. When we come from there, we won't make wrong decisions. When we approach one another, we will do it in a respectful way. And you know, when we explore each other's culture and spirituality or religion, we find there's more similarities than differences. And in every religious belief, it's the human side of people that take those teachings and use them for ego or for whatever it might be in a negative way. But the teachings are always consistent, and the teachings are always good, no matter what it is. And that's what I learned. And like my grandfather, I have done that. I traveled and I did ceremony with all these different religious beliefs. And, you know, I didn't compromise who I am or where my teachings are, but it didn't stop me from having a good prayer with somebody. So with that, a good friend, John Hale, I'd like you to come up and represent some of the religious and spiritual organizations in this area. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you, Ruben. And I guess I'm here really to provide a forum of affirmation for the inspiring leadership that we're getting from Ruben and Chief Phil Lane and the indigenous that are teaching us to come together based on spirit to protect the sacredness of our land and all of the people that are on it. And the beauty of having this come from the indigenous is the 10,000 years of authentication that it brings. And the beauty is that it is resonating in every spiritual and religious tradition when we go deep enough to the roots of what started them. And so today we have several leaders of different traditions to be able to say a brief blessing on this gathering we have here today. It's up to all of us, and the beauty is that when we see the messages from the different perspectives, it enriches the whole, and it illuminates the blind spots that we have when we're in our own space. So I'd like to introduce Katie Ladd, who is pastor of the Queen Anne Methodist Church, and she will offer a blessing from that perspective. Katie?
So I wrote mine down because I preached too long this morning, so I've learned I'm long-winded. So I'm going to stick to a script so you don't have to endure that right now. I want to say that Methodists are new kids on the block. We arrived here on Alki in 1853 and became the first church in the Seattle region when First United Methodist Church was founded that year. And, but that is such a drop in the bucket of the history of peoples living in this area and of all the non-human creation that has made this place home for so long. Since we came here in 1853, we've now become known as United Methodists. And before I give a blessing, I want to give some of you warriors a little ammunition, okay? And so what you should always know is the words you can use back against another person if you want to make headway. So what I'm going to read to you is called our social principle statement on the environment. And key in, Baptists have one, Lutherans have one, Catholics have one. It goes United Church of Christ has one. So you can walk into any church and use their own words about the environment to get them to be part of this movement. And here are the words you can use to get United Methodists. These words are supposedly supported by all 12 million members of the United Methodist Church. All creation is the Lord's, and we are responsible for the ways in which we use and abuse it. Water, air, soil, minerals, energy resources, plants, animal life, and space are to be valued and conserved because they are God's creation, and not solely because they are useful to human beings. God has granted us stewardship of creation. We should meet these stewardship duties through acts of loving care and respect. Economic, political, social, and technological developments have increased our human numbers and lengthened and enriched our lives. However, these developments have led to regional defoliation, dramatic extinction of species, massive human suffering, overpopulation, and the misuse and overconsumption of natural and non-renewable resources, particularly by industrialized societies. This continued course of action jeopardizes the natural heritage that God has entrusted to all generations. Therefore, let us recognize the responsibility of the church and its members to place a high priority on changes in economic, political, social, and technological lifestyles to support a more ecologically equitable and sustainable world, leading to a higher quality of life for all of God's children. So with those words, I want to offer this blessing upon this gathering and my gratitude for being invited to speak at it. In the name of God, who creates, redeems, and inspires, may this alliance be as strong as the mountains that stand witness to and vigil over the Salish Sea. May this alliance be as wondrous as the sea itself and as diverse as all of the life that teems within her. May we be led to bold actions that protect all life, particularly non-human creation. May this alliance challenge us to live every day acutely aware of the interconnectedness of all life. May we change our habits to use fewer resources and to seek God's shalom above all else. May God lead us to lives rooted in justice, compassion, and peace. May God breathe life into this alliance and into each of us, so that we might resist all structures and systems that oppress, marginalize, and exploit. And may God rain grace upon this sacred water and upon this sacred land, such that we can do nothing but gaze in awe and bask in the holiness that infuses it already. So in the name of the God who creates, redeems, and inspires, may it be so. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Katie. Michael Douglas will now offer a blessing from the Sufi tradition.
I'm very thankful to be here. I'm very appreciative to be able to offer a blessing from my tradition for this gathering. This is a song of blessing. It's a song for the Creator of us all, whose deepest reality is compassion and mercy. The one who has brought us all together on this day, and who knows what is deep in all of our hearts. Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Jami, Ya Alim, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Jami, Ya Alim, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Jami, Ya Alim, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Jami, Ya Alim. Amin. Amin.
Thank you, Michael. Our next blessing will come from Kanjin Sederman from a Buddhist Seattle temple.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Just to explain, the purpose of my prayer is to honor the ancestors and spirits of this land and the air. And, the purpose of this prayer is to give praise and respect to the ancestors of this land and this air, and also to purify the minds of the people living on this land. So at this time, I will perform a Gokito blessing.
가시도 않는 댄린 조주만 온린 소도 가구수주 호소건 호주 다게 가시도 가구소 댕겨그 댕그 조사주기 가구 만다라게 삼부트 그다이수가 조도 흑이니수 겐조리누 흐소그 노뇨 시트주 먼세 조다이수조 이야그고 인행파 소기고 만삼보묘 조으수 그 독은유와 수지비기사 갱가신사이시니 세보와 그지 시수세트부트 주무로 그나이 갬브사이 세트부트 난시가 지리기노세 고소무로 주 슈고 그 슈고소 독은요도 으지사모 도시 소기도 단로 요진부트 고지프 고뇨 이센노벤이지 고지드사이니 곤지 문어세 고모가 야그이 세브 그조 그겐사이 범부된도 지드사이 곰메드이도 겐가 코니조 교시신 호이드자 그고 요그다오 아그도 주가조 주조교도 흑교도 지요 가도 이세 주주 호마이지 사세네 이가로 수조 도크뉴무조도 소크조주부시. Thank you very much.
Next up is Karen Lindquist, representing the Inner Spiritual Community Sanctuary.
Good afternoon. I would like to share with you a centuries-old prayer, and this prayer is called the Rose Prayer. It becomes important for a day like this, for a gathering like this, because it evokes the quality of love. And the quality of love is what we have to fuel within ourselves to be able to have the capacity to do what is required of us. The Rose Prayer is ancient, and yet it takes us into the future. If you imagine your heart, within your heart there is a rose that has the capacity, when watered, when receiving nourishment, it opens slowly, broadly, completely, and the fragrance is released. This is where we are in the Rose Prayer, and this is where we have to live every day if we're going to be able to do this work, if we're going to be able to do this work with love, and if we're going to be able to purify our environment, we have to purify ourselves. So this prayer comes from that place of purification of the individual, the perfection of one's thoughts, the perfection of one's actions, the perfection of one's speech, the perfection of one's desires, which is a key point here. What we desire, we have to fuel with passion. And we desire to love more deeply than any generation has done before. So we have to go deeper in this moment now. Our traditions are diverse, but our center is in the heart, and it is pure. And so this prayer is also a prayer of direction. And we say now this prayer: may this moment be blessed. May goodness be opened, and may evil be dispelled. And may our humble plea be accepted in the court of honor. May the most glorious God purify and fill our hearts with the light of the greatest name. And may the hearts of the lovers be opened. And I invite you all to now say, "Who, who, who."
Michael Ramos is Executive Director of the Church Council of Greater Seattle. Next up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to give honor to the Duwamish people on whose land we have the privilege of sitting. Honorable Cecile Hansen, leaders here, Indigenous leaders, thank you for your leadership and for bringing us here together. This is a movement of spirit, and you are leading the way. Thank you very much. I want to be clear that while I'm here on behalf of the churches of this local community, that I'm really here for my 16 and 19-year-old daughters and for the children and for all humankind. May they know the sacredness of the Salish Seas restored to its fullest capacity. Let it be so. In 1987, the Church Council of Greater Seattle led the effort among Christian denominations to acknowledge our profound lack of respect for the religion and culture of Indigenous peoples, the failure to honor and support Native practices, and our racism toward our Indigenous brothers and sisters of the Pacific Northwest over many generations. This step was rooted in a deep movement of heart and spirit, rooted in renewed relationships and embrace of our common humanity. Bishops and other leaders pledged the solidarity of our churches with Native-led efforts to support their spiritual practices, to fish their waters, and to uphold the integrity of their sacred places. Such a step one generation ago has been affirmed twice, in 1997, and then last Friday on August 29th. Many of you were there at St. Mark's Cathedral. Our commitment is more than with words. For the next generation, and the next, and the next, for 7 generations, we pledge to live with body, mind, and soul, to embody a genuine and loving solidarity. Where the Spirit will take us, we do not know, but we embark on this journey willingly and wholeheartedly. Here today, Church's responsibility meets the fundamental rights of First Nations peoples to live, to a sufficient, sustainable livelihood, to join in honoring the sacredness of Mother Earth, and to protect the Salish Sea. We hope and pray that the launching of Nawtsamaat will bear fruit in many encounters of people from all spiritual backgrounds, to, as the words indicate, to act in alliance as one house, one heart, one prayer, united in power to protect the sacred. What more beautiful teaching can you offer to us? What message could be better to reflect Indigenous ways which make us whole in one circle of life in our one Salish Sea? The earth is crying out, and we call on liberating and healing spirit to bring life once more from death-dealing tar sands destruction and relentless fossil fuel extraction. I offer a brief prayer drawn from our apologies. Spirit, honor and celebrate the Cedar and Salmon people. You teach us that if we remain silent when sacred sites are torn up, that even these very stones will shout. The way to right previous wrongs is to join water and blood in our stand together, to respect what is sacred and belongs to no one but to you. Unleash one more time the power of the land and of ancient wisdom, so that we might act as one mighty and powerful blessing upon the creation which you renew and which we have the privilege of walking softly upon together through your goodness. And so our journey, our alliance, our trust knows no international border, no artificial boundary, as our churches have learned quite late. Earth, air, fire, and water, sacred to all. Tribal leaders, you continue to teach us the ways of reconciliation and rebirth in sacred circle and sacred action. Receive our disposition, our open hands, and our sign of peace, which the world does not understand, and lead us to right action, right livelihood, and right relationship with the sacred seas and land. Let it be so. Spirit, guide us. Amen.
And so unprecedented unified action brings those of us from different spiritual profiles, different activist and issue profiles into alignment to make a difference. We all are humbled and inspired by the leadership that brought us here today, And our final offering in this spiritual context is with Sweetwater Nanook, representing Idle No More Washington. She has so many different areas that she gifts us with her spirit. Sweetwater?
I would like to call up my Tlingit brothers and sisters to join me and stand beside me now. Any of our relatives of the eagle and raven, killer whale people, please come and join me. We're all related in one way or another, and many of my brothers and sisters here are from also my father's people or my mother's people, grandfathers, grandmothers. But my name is Sweetwater Nanook. I'm from the Kiliwil clan of the Tsimshian Nation. My father is from the Kiksadi people, the Raven Frog clan. My grandfather is from the Siitkwedi, the Glacier people. And my great-grandmother, Yehiadikla, was the precious grandchild of the Nanyai, the upper living people. And I'm a direct descendant of Chief Shakes and Chief Nanak. And I would just like to give a moment for my brothers and sisters to introduce themselves, what your name and what clan you are from, so we know who is all here.
I'm Pamela Stearns. My Tlingit name is Cleanse. My homelands are Hoona, Alaska, and my Tlingit clan name is Wishkitan, that's Eagle Shark. Thank you all for coming.
My name is Ryan Qualls. I am from the Kiksadi clan. My Tlingit name is Satanish.
My name is Esther Manship. I'm from Kagwantan, Tlingit. My name is Ka'ayi. Thank you for coming.
My name is Hannah McCullough. My father is from the Tlingit clan, Eagle clan, Tlingit nation, and my Tlingit name is Shakewis. Thank you.
I'm just thankful for the Coast Salish people, the Duwamish people. I raise my hands to you, the Tulalip's, the Nisqually, any of our other brothers and sisters here, and those who are here and those who couldn't be here. We're originally from Alaska, and up there we've dealt with the Exxon Valdez oil spill of 1989 that we're still dealing with today. There is no clean oil, there is no clean coal. And we're still, even our families, my own relatives have died from cancer, and many times, many families have been impacted by this, and not just our people, but those who can't speak for themselves. Even killer whale pods are extinct and disappearing now. So it's really important that we all, I'm grateful to see us all here to stand in one voice, one body, one nation, one spirit. And it's very important, as you know, I don't want to preach to the choir here, but what we're doing today, as my elders have said, is it's not for us, but our children and our children's children. And so the work I will be doing with the Idle No More Washington, I invite you to go to the Facebook page and keep up on updates, but to have teach workshops about historical trauma, history of colonization, spiritual activism, how to work with natives in doing this work, because it's time, as we've had this here in Alaska too. The churches, Presbyterian, apologized to our people for the wrongdoings that were done to our ancestors. So it's time now, as many have said, to come together in a good way, to lift each other up. The prayers that are laid down here are for many generations to come. And we're here standing united to stop this. And so I'm going to offer a prayer in my language as I was taught.
And I invite you to pray in your own way, however your beliefs and faiths are, from your heart. So we're praying for the Salish Sea and all of life. I was up in Bella Bella too, and they had a rally up there, and you know, I even prayed for the Prime Minister, and that's what we're doing too. And for those who think they're in charge, those who think they have power, we have the spiritual power. We have our ancestors who laid down those prayers that we could stand here today. And so we are very strong, and the power we have, they cannot take away from us. So I'm thankful and honored to stand with each and every one of you. So please join with me now in this prayer. Gunalchish dikian kawu, Gunalchish hashagenia, Gunalchish hashuka yayagi, wa sati ikatu khatang. Dikian kawu hagachi, ha'ayi ha'ish adu sadaikiyati, dagachsayi I sayi, dahat kagut hatlatki kadei ayi. De klachkonach aye yakagach du sitia naich. Chaawi di kiakuhan. Hajitia yayagi katleko. Kacha ade ye na uuhan. Hasla uskeye. Tlicha shigudikuhan katlin kayi. Katsuha hasanechuhan. Di ang kawujida. Iayich satia tlatki kadeh. Ka ikotsini, katsuiklatsayi, dikiach cha'a lagu, kunalchish ichsechan, dikian kawu, kunalchish ichsechan hashagenia ka hashag, and ka hashagun. Yeah, thank you. I want to invite you also, we'll be standing in united with our brothers and sisters of the Nawtsamaat in this treaty signing. And also with the People's March here happening in Seattle on the 21st. If I'm here, I'll be also doing a water blessing on that day. And I'm not sure yet. The Sierra Club is bringing me to Washington, D.C. and for Alaska Wilderness Week, so I may end up being there too. But even if I'm not, I encourage you to come and join us too. And also up at the border at the Peace Arch on the 20th. And just keep these prayers in mind and keep this medicine going. And so with that, with Idle No More Washington, we like to finish up with a song because our prayers are medicine and healing. And I think we've been sitting on long enough. So I'm gonna ask my Tlingit brothers and sisters to join me. And I'll ask my sister to introduce the song. It comes from her people, the Huna people. And but I'm going to ask you, those who are able, and I'm going to ask my brother here if we can help start with a round dance, and we'll just dance around and put those prayers and medicine out there. We're sending it down to the earth and to all over. So gonna chish.
Goodness Chish, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce the Tlingit song, the Huna Exit song. Please join us.
Yahweh, Yahweh, ha, hu, ha, hey, 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 Yahweh, Yahweh, hu, ha, hey, 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 Yahweh, Yahweh, hu, ha, hey, 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 Yahweh, Yahweh, hu, hey, 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 hey. I gotta keep singing. Yahweh, Yahweh, hu, ha, hey, 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 Yahweh, Yahweh, hu, ha, hey, 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 Yahweh. to teach you one of our Tlingit warrior chants we do on the canoe journey. And it's more of a vocable, but it's to encourage each other to be strong, keep going, don't give up. So I'm going to say it, and I want you to repeat it. We're going to do it three times, and then at the end you can yahoo and scream and do whatever you want and get all crazy like that. All right, here we go. Hoo-ha! 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 Hui!
So if we could, thank you, Relations. So if we could have those volunteers that Kaya and Lacey and Grace, then you had your friend come up. You know, if the ones in the back could come out in the front a little bit, but everyone else could sort of stay where they are if they could see this ceremony we're going to do. Just one last comment from myself before I hand it over to Uncle Phil and I hand it over to John. You know, when I was at the Alberta tar sands and yesterday close to it, I could see how people, excuse me, just we're almost done here. We're almost done. I could see how the people there and like us and you guys yourselves, how you want to step forward and want to do something. My son, who you saw speak, is so tall now, but I was reminiscing this morning when I held him in one hand. When he was born, I held him just like that. And I loved him so much I would want to do anything for him. It made me think of Harper, the so-called leader of Canada. What in his life does he hold so precious that he wouldn't want to make better choices for his children or the next 7 generations? The one thing that I know he cried about, and this is how warped he is, I believe, when the Chilcotin, they went to Supreme Court 20 years ago to claim back their traditional territory of their land. And after 20 years, they won. So what that means, yes, it's huge. It's huge. It's precedenting. But when they won, it was like 20 years, and what that says is any traditional land that they have remains or ties through ceremony, they could stop any development. That's what it comes down to. And they could live on the land, live off the land. That's what it comes down to. So they could stop development. And Harper, I told you my thoughts of what does he hold sacred? I could tell you it's that money. Because one of his aides from his party talked to somebody who knew somebody who leaked it out. And when that decision came out, he went in his office and he cried. He for real cried, and that's what he feels is sacred, and that's wrong. To cry over their dominance with fossil fuel development. I tell you what I did, me and my teachers, we went and celebrated and had a dinner. We celebrated. But I just, yeah, thank you. But it's just those thoughts that I wanted to leave you with and give you the idea of that we are going to win. We are going to win, and I'm so proud. Every time I think of our court case, I get happy. We're going to win. So Uncle Phil's going to do a ceremony right here. So where's that?
With your singing the Coast Salish National Anthem.
Sure.
I want to also, we're going to have really our sisters here use a cedar, which is sacred to this land, and splash that cedar. But before we do, I want to invite Abe Johnny here, Abe Johnny and crew. They're the ones who have been doing all this work preparing the salmon for us. Abe has been here working at the Daybreak Star since before it was built. He's been security for here. Abe, his cousins here, others are here that are working with him, and I just really, if he doesn't show up, I wish that all of you would go shake their hands. The salmon's done. It's ready. And we're going to have now this national anthem. This is the national anthem chosen by all the Coast Salish people of Canada, the United States. It's actually the song of Chief Dan George, whose grandson stands here, whose great-granddaughter stands here. Others are related. We'll sing that in honor of this Coast Salish nation. I'm going to ask our sisters, our four sisters, to come and to just spray this to the four directions. And if you'd like, please come up and receive just a splash of that water. It's, you might say, an initiation of the Nawtsamaat Alliance, which is initiated through the sacred cedar and water. Very simple, but that's how meaningful and deep this is all about. It's about our water. It's about the life that we want to go on forever and ever through these evergreens. Help me talk to you, see. And here we go. Abe. Please introduce your team here before we go on. And they, by the way, they came out and did this for us in a very, literal volunteer capacity.
We're thankful that you guys took our building, took the time to use our building here, and we appreciate it. You coming and using the building. Thank you. My name is Abe Johnny. I'm here with the United Indians of all tribes. This is Vance Sieber.
Hi.
And this is Paul Wolcott.
And Paul's been in here for years and years and years and years, so you can thank him.
13 years.
13 years. That's Paul gets me.
Phil.
Okay. Go ahead.
Ruben.
There's got Ruben.
Man plans, God laughs.
Hey,
Thank you so much. We're going to continue with this, and thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you for the prayer, and I truly believe in that word, Nawtsamaat. I've been taught that my whole life, of one heart, one mind, and one prayer. And it's good to be in a circle like this with each and every one of you. This is a ceremony in itself where I know in our spiritual homes, it starts with the spirit within inside of us, but when we start to feel comfortable in the ceremony in whatever kind of spiritual house we're in, we'll allow our spirit to expand to the size of that spiritual home where we're praying. And when we do that, our spirits overlap one another, and when we do that, our ancestors and our angels come down and they be with us. And I truly believe that, and I think that happened today. I know that happened today, and you fed my spirit, each and every one of you, and it couldn't happen without you. So John Raymer, I encourage you to continue to come up and give blessings, but he has a couple more announcements while we're closing here.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so as the blessings continue, I want to share with you the core values and principles of this alliance that we're forming today, that is being blessed by our presence. So the alliance is based on the principle that to effectively steward our collective resources and to live more harmoniously with one another and the planet, we need integrated, adaptive solutions. These solutions need to synthesize and honor the linear worldview that's scientific, hierarchical, and analytical with those of a holistic worldview that's creative, spiritual, cooperative, and balanced. We strive to accomplish our goal of protecting and restoring the Salish Sea through designing deep networks that are based on open and honest communications, shared knowledge and resources, equitable access to participation, and collaborative co-creative leadership. The Alliance fosters learning and adaptation as new information and conditions arise and will emerge and evolve over time. So there's a description of what does it mean to be an Alliance member. I'd like you to grab a copy before you go. I'd like you to also, while we're having this meal together, share with each other what might you contribute to this Alliance. What would that do for you, and what would that do for this alliance? This is a moment for us to discover what it really means to come together. It wouldn't be unprecedented if we just stayed in our comfort zones. This is a chance to reach beyond that place where we've been before, to get out of our comfort zone and into that stretch zone. And by the way, this is the week that we birthed the Compassion Games, again here in Seattle. And is not compassion for Mother Earth the ultimate compassion game? Right. And it was thanks to Phil and the Seeds of Compassion that we met, where the guiding principles were put as part of all the work that we've done. Summarized simply to say that starting from within, working in a circle, in a sacred manner, we heal and develop ourselves, our relationships, and the world. So to be a member is to align ourselves with those very simple core values. Now, it also means that we nourish ourselves. So here's some instructions about how you're going to get fed. We're going to eat in the room to my right. There are tables set up for us. These chairs. job.